Buddy, we're gonna get started, so come and grab a seat. Hello. People in the kitchen, definitely come over, grab a seat. There's plenty of seating over here. Welcome, everybody. Happy holidays. Woo! Yeah. No, I'm super excited for tonight's event. This is an awesome turnout. I'm really happy to see everyone here. So welcome to SF Game Development. We've been running this group now for about over a year and a half now, so it's awesome to see how much has grown. I feel like I say that every event. Part of the reason why I started this group back around 2 years ago was just for the people that don't know my background. Basically, I used to be an independent video game developer back in high school, and part of how I learned how to code and how I got involved in tech was by coming to meetups like this and meeting developers such as yourself, and we would then code at a coffee shop every weekend and make games together. And a lot of our games that we created in this group actually became very successful, and we were basically full-time indie game developers for about like 7 years. So I want to kind of inspire all of you guys that if you want to chase your dreams and you want to be a successful game developer, that this is a great place to basically network and meet like-minded people and create awesome things together. So if you want to join our group and you haven't already, the link is up above. And just as of recently, we have created a Discord. If you guys don't know what Discord is, it's basically a gaming chat room / calling / video chatting service. And so if you join with that invite, you can basically connect with everyone in this group, message each other. If you're looking for developers or you want help developing your game, definitely go and use this as your resource. This is our community. So I'm really excited to have everyone join this group on Discord. So feel free to take a photo if you want, or it's on the meetup page if you want to find it. So we're having another meetup here in January. This one I'm really excited about. So Discord is going to be coming next month. And Emily, who you may have seen come to this group before, she's a senior solutions engineer at Discord. And she's actually going to be going over how you can basically integrate Discord into your video games. And a lot of independent video game developers are actually using Discord to build their communities. And it's a great way to reach basically new gamers. And Discord is just really powerful. And I've seen a lot of indies that are actually in this group implement the Discord API into their games, and they're seeing huge successes, and they're actually making a lot of money because of it. So I think this talk will be really beneficial, and other speakers will be announced at a later date. So make sure to RSVP when I announce this on meetup.com. And so with that, I'd like to invite the first speaker up to the stage. Where's he at? FramePlay, let's go. Yeah, woo!
Good evening. 1, 2. Good evening, everybody. You're going to have to forgive me because I just got off a flight from Australia, so I'm severely jet lagged, but I really wanted to be here and support all of you with what you're doing and support Jordan. I think it's a really good cause, and especially who we are and what we do and where this, I guess, our product and our idea came from, is we are all gamers here. Everybody here actually loves to play a game just as much as they love to build one. So with that said, I'm not sure if I've got that up on the screen, but I'll give you a bit of context into our history. Now, going back to 2017, when we originally had this idea to actually create this company, I met my co-founder playing PUBG. And now, as everybody knows, if you played that, you get matched with some random. Usually they suck, and they get you killed instantly. But in this case, my co-founder is actually pretty good. So we ended up playing this game a lot. And this is back when PUBG had the Red Bull can. The Red Bull can within the game gave you character energy, and we thought, that's pretty cool. But then they pushed a release and they removed the Red Bull can. We're like, what are you doing? That's insane. Like, that is perfect placement for it. At this point, there was 3 million concurrent players playing PUBG. We thought that was one of the biggest marketing faux pas. Red Bull said cease and desist, yada, yada. So we sort of looked at that and said, well, you know, how can we build something that's a little bit better? Something that is not a banner, something that's not a video that's popping up on a mobile phone. You're trying to close it as quick as you can so you can actually get back to your game. And we wanted to make a way to implement advertising within games that was non-intrusive, fully intrinsic. So that's sort of where we started in 2017, and now before I dive into anything further, I think just to make sure that I can give you the right idea and conceptually you can understand what we're talking about, I'm going to flick something up on the screen. So I'm going to do this now, and I'm going to start it without there any internet connected, and I assume, oh, there's sound. I assume you can all see this space on the screens. Now, as you can see, there's nothing. It's kept very blank, and that's because we're completely disconnected. But now I'm going to run the same space again, and I'm going to connect it to the Wi-Fi. Cool. So this is the same space again. Again, this here is now pulling into the environment. And obviously, depending on how you build your environment, how you build loading screens and so forth, this ad creative that's been pulled within here we've created these brands because we use the mock sort of bits and pieces so people can understand as developers are actually building out their title, they can actually see what is coming into the game, how it's going to look. But what this does is really enables a game developer to now not only look at monetization through a mobile title. You can build on console, you can build on PC. The same SDK is used for mobile, but it's not intrusive. It can really add to the game experience and what the players are actually doing. But one of the biggest things we did is when we made this, we thought, let's remove all the middlemen in here. We give 50% of our ad spend, or whatever comes through from advertise, 50% of that goes straight back to the game developer. We wanted to really make a way that was, you can make a game and actually have a sustainable revenue stream from the ad systems. So now if you look around in these environments, and I can show you some different ones, these ones here are actually, they'll cycle every 60 seconds, but the whole point of it was the SDK is implemented within Unity. You can implement it within Unreal. We're going to be releasing for Source and for CryEngine next year as well, early in the year. But it's a 2-minute integration, and at that point, it's drag and drop. If you want to customize any of the features and the way it loads, say, for instance, you don't want it to cycle, you want them to actually hold the creative, you can select that as an option. If you want them to be cycling like it was a digital billboard, you can select that. I'll just run a different environment. Hockey stadium. So again, these are, sorry, this is really hard to control with one hand. And I don't know if you can see that. So these ones are actually loading in now. And all of this stuff, the longer we sit here, every 60 seconds, these ones are actually set to cycle, and you're going to get a new piece of ad creative. But one of the bigger things, which I haven't really touched on, is when you look at the advertising market, they don't have a way really to reach a lot of people. A lot of the ways that are available now are really intrusive for us, but they don't understand what's happening. So from a web perspective, they know that a particular piece of ad creative was loaded, but they don't know anything about what happened. They don't know where people went or what they did or how they looked at this. So right now, this particular ad that's up there, the Sound Studio ad, we are looking at that and saying, well, at the moment, it's taking about 5% of the screen. We know how big the screen is physically. We know the resolution. We know how far away we are from that ad. We know how long we're looking at that ad. If there was, in the instance that there's an obstruction or something that's actually in the way and it's blocking it, we're actually calculating every half a second what is obstructing it and where it's going. Now, what this means is, and it doesn't really sound like it's that important from a game developer's perspective, but for the advertiser, they now know exactly what they're getting. So from a cost perspective, we can actually charge the advertiser a lot more money for the same thing that they would show on a web perspective, because they actually have some value. We can say, this is what happened, this is where the person was, this is what they did, this is what the impression looked like. We have all this data. So from the game developer's perspective, now instead of a CPM being anywhere between $5 and $10, it could be upwards of $15. So that's a direct, substantial increase in revenue for a game developer. But if we tie this back and we keep going back into where this really originated from, is we wanted to support indie developers. Now, this is not just to help out EA come up with some new monetization strategy, replacing loot boxes. We wanted to make sure that we support the game developers at a very grassroots level, and that's why we go straight into universities and we teach students how to use this and actually implement it within their courses and the games and titles they're building. It's entirely up to you how you actually use this. It doesn't necessarily need to be in these instances like this, but we wanted to really support and give more options for monetization that don't necessarily rely on the same mechanics that we have available today. So that's it in a very, very basic, high-level 50,000-foot view. I've got a few developers of ours here as well that can actually answer any questions as far as integration goes, and I'm sure everybody would love to help you out there. So we got Luke and Brian here, the two of our guys that work on the SDK, and happy to answer any questions.
So does anyone have any questions? I can pass around the mic if anyone does. Oh, over here.
Yeah, so I saw in your demo scene that the first one where you had the billboard, and then you had another sign on the burger shop, I guess, whatever, the gas station. Is it possible to tag, like, say you want a particular sign to like reflect a certain type of brand, and you want the sign over here to reflect this other type of content? Is it possible to do that?
Yeah, so so I'll dive down into this a little bit more. So generally, what everybody's used to from the advertising world is the advertiser has complete control. So you can say, I want to target this region, I want to target that type of person, this age, this gen, whatever. They have that complete control. What we wanted to spin this around is give more control back to the developer. So you as a developer, as you're actually building this, you can turn around and say, well, I don't want any political references. So you can lock out all political ads. I don't want anything that has anything to do with religion. Block that out. Depending on the type of game you're building as well. So we realized that, when you see like an ad on a mobile thing and it pops up and you're like, wow, that was clearly made for a desktop. I can't read the ad at all. It's like a single pixel line. So the creative that comes through is actually going to be specifically for what your game is. But then if it's not meant to be photorealistic or it needs to be cartoon, we'll actually pull through and make sure that the creative that comes through is in line with the game's feeling to make sure that it doesn't break immersion, that you feel completely at ease and within the game, and whatever ad creative is coming through is actually making sense. Much like the way we like to sort of envisage this is, if you're driving down the road and you see a billboard on the side of the road, you see the billboard. If that creative or that ad actually resonates with you, you're going to get the message. If it doesn't, it's not going to wreck your day. You're just going to keep driving. You basically didn't even see it. But if it did, it will make sense. Now, the biggest thing is we have the analytics engine that sits behind it, and we can actually capture everything that happened there and understand when these things happen, why there was a result. And for an advertiser, that's extremely valuable, but it also lends back to you to being able to have complete control over your creative vision and actually monetize that in a much more effective way. Does that answer?
For the most part, I guess. Specifically, I was thinking, say like you're in your level design and you're making like I'm putting this billboard over here on this hillside and putting this one over here, and I want this billboard to only be car companies, and I want this billboard to only be restaurants, that sort of thing. Is it possible to do that sort of thing?
Yeah, so that comes down to categorization and metadata. So these are all things that we're actually opening up. Again, with something like this, because we are pioneering something in a new field, we don't want to try and run before we walk, and we're doing much higher level things. But I can, and then these guys can attest to as well, there's a build plan, and we've got the next 12 months of stuff, that feature sets that are being added. But we're also really listening to the developer community as we're doing it. Say, for instance, one of the developers we do, they asked us a while ago, like, hey, I'm building a procedurally generated game. And we're like, oh shit, like, we really only forecast to build this in maps and environments that are really planned, so we could do heat maps and all this kind of thing. And it's like, well, I can't really use it if we don't have procedurally generated. So we go away, 2 weeks later, we come back, we have the ability to run a procedurally generated game, and we can get the analytics out of it as well. But that was this is the kind of feedback that we absolutely love from the dev community, to actually understand the needs and the requirements from you. And we don't want to just go down this tangent of building things because we think it's a good idea. Like, I mean, we're all gamers anyway. Well, I truly believe I have a fairly good grasp on what we're trying to achieve here, but it's always, there's things that we don't think of. And when we get feedback like this, we try and really embrace it and help you guys out.
All right, thank you very much.
Does anyone else have a quick question?
Sure. It is 100% free. So you just download the SDK and you integrate, place however you wish. The whole point of that is we didn't want to create a service that basically is just another cost to devs. I mean, when you're starting out as a developer and you're building, especially when you're building some of your first games and you don't have the support or the ability to call on these networks or groups that can really fund your operations, you need to have as little cost as possible. So that's why when we made this, we wanted to make it free, and we actually give a very large portion of our rev back to the developer to really support what you guys are actually trying to achieve.
So we have one last question here.
What kind of restrictions, if any, do advertisers have on like the context in the way in which you represent their ads?
Are you talking about when we push something through from an advertiser?
Yeah,
how
like
we
these are all
display it?
billboards, I guess, but
Okay,
imagine the same thing on a mug.
Yeah.
And in many contexts.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Again, like this is a classic situation where you don't want to try and bite off more than you can chew initially and walk. We started off with billboards and similar things like this to make sure that we could actually execute it correctly, especially from the analytics side, because we really recognize that the analytics is just vital to actually making sure that this gets massive adoption from the advertising side. So we're going to be releasing different formats and so forth as we go. So each iteration is already planned for different things. Not to mention, this is only an impression-based version, and we have already planned and thought out how we're going to do an engagement version as well. So you can actually interact with the creative.
cool, thanks.
No, I think that rounds it up, right? Thank you so much.
Oh,
really
good.
appreciate your time. Yeah, and now I'd like to invite up Joe. Perfect. You got the mic up there, I think. Let's see.
Oh, it should be working. Up on the monitors? Greetings, this is a short presentation. I'm Joe Menard. I, on a dare from my son, decided to make a video game. So I've been doing it solo for 2 years. I've had no feedback, and what I am here for today is to try to get some of you to give me feedback so that I know whether I've done something good or not so good. As background, I'm a puzzle guy. I played all of the Myst games. I used to treasure not doing any cheats, although I eventually had to, but things like Portal, the Talos Principle, Abduction, The Witness, these are the games that I play. I don't play shoot-ups, so what I did at my son's challenge is try to build a puzzle game. And what I did, and I have it over here on the monitor, there was a gentleman playing it earlier. He thought it was cool. It's a walk-around puzzle exploration game. It has a narrative theme that I will be the first to tell you needs further development, because I am not a writer, but it has a really bad set of decisions at the end that the person playing the game has to decide. But perhaps a more succinct way to describe the game is that it is an amusement park-sized escape room. You get planted on this island, and you have to find your way out. In doing that, you actually have to make things. Maybe the best way is to go through a couple of slides. This is an aerial view of it. It has several islands, and I know this is pretty small, but there are different areas. There's a desert area, or a cliff area, or a refinery area. And you have to sort your way through this entire world find all kinds of clues, do scavenger hunts, make things in order to escape. And along the lines of some of the things you have to make, as a couple of examples, this is an oil refinery that you actually have to run. You have to create specific chemicals that you will then later use to make other things to help you escape from the game. If any of you are familiar with 3D printers or CNC machines, this is a rather large CNC machine that you have to use, you have to program to cut things, make things, again, all with the goal of solving certain puzzles. If you want puzzles, this doesn't really show very well, but this is about 10 different puzzles on a single island that you have to nail in order to proceed to the next level. And there are plenty of little puzzles where you just open a door, you find a key, or open a door, you find a cube. My son demanded that there be a drone in the game, so there's a drone so you can fly around. It's actually important that you do fly around because there are many clues that you can only see through the air. And there's subterranean levels. This is just a mine elevator. And again, inspiration from the boy. It's not a game if it doesn't have lasers. So let me just cut to the chase, and hopefully this kind of hack trailer I put together runs. So I will tell you that I started knowing assembly language and C programming, and I used Unreal Engine because it had blueprints. And though there are many, many disciplines you need to know to actually build these games, I never knew I had to be an audio engineer or a narrative designer. It is eminently doable, but at the end of the day, if you do it on your own, you're not going to succeed. So what I'm looking for, and it's a little bit demanding, so please think about it if you're willing. I need to watch some people play the game. I can't just give a code and have someone play it, because just in having the gentleman earlier play the game, I found a couple of things where I could enhance the game. So what I'm looking for is hopefully somebody here or maybe on the list that's willing to spend some time with the game, and somebody can play it after this if you want, so that I can actually decide what parts of the game are fun, what parts of the game might be tedious, where it could be improved. And if you want to come up and talk to me afterwards, that's great. If not, joe@sonoma.games. It's not sonomagames.com, because that was like $150,000. So it's joe@sonoma.games. And if you want to look at the trailer on your own or show your friends, it's also at sonoma.games. So that's the scoops.
Awesome. Awesome. Nice job. I have a quick question for you, actually. So what platforms were you thinking about releasing it on, and like what's your overall monetization strategy as an indie for this game?
Those are really good questions.
Do you not know
So
yet?
right now, my first goal was just to put it on PC, because that's where I've played all my games. I just started experimenting with an Xbox version, but it will not be on a phone. The computer I have over there has a 2080 Ti and a 9900K, and it'll do 4K at 60 frames per second, but just barely. It is such a large number of items in the world, it could only work on a meaty, beefy thing. And my monetization strategy is to see if it's worth spending more money on.
Got it. That makes complete sense. Does anyone have any quick questions for him, or no?
Is it coming to VR? Not yet. It would be pretty hard to make this for a solo dude. It'd be pretty hard for me to do it. So it's probably just going to be PC, maybe Xbox, maybe PS4 or something like that. So. You know, I've played so many different puzzle games that somehow out of the blue came this thing. It's largely about colors and blending of colors. I don't know where it came from, but I've played enough games where there are overlay puzzles and different kinds of puzzles that, again, it started off, sorry to go a little long, Jordan. It started off going to be just blending of colors and puzzles around that, and then it evolved to making things with colors, and it depended on what color you made the thing, whether it would work or not. And so, I mean, I will say that this game evolved organically. I started out, and it's completely different from what I started. I mean, you learn as you're building it to go, oh, that's stupid, and this is smart, and okay, let's go that way. Anyway, question? The last one? What's that? I could put that in, but again, right now I'm trying to focus on finishing the gameplay, the reliability. I can tell you that the cheat notes are 17 pages long.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Really.
There, if you want to see me later.
Yeah, come try it out after. Thank you. So next up, I'd love to invite Chris up to the stage. I think there should be a mic up there. Give him a round of applause. Woo!
Thanks, everybody. I have to admit something. I had the great privilege of speaking yesterday at Waffle.js. I think there was at least one person, maybe Chloe. Thanks, Chloe. And I had my computer plugged in, and I was getting ready, kind of like what I'm doing now. And this is, as somebody else went up, I realized that I had my computer plugged into the audio. And for those of you that have an Apple Watch, it also rings to your computer and your phone and your watch. And somebody else was presenting. And so just now, I did the exact same thing when I stopped my Misty robot, and it said bye-bye in the middle of your presentation. So you get one on me. You can interrupt it at any time, just once. So I'm sorry. But I realized that I've done that twice in as many days. So hi, I'm Chris. I'm ready now, so I can actually start my presentation here. So I'm the head of developer experience at Misty Robotics, and I have one of the coolest jobs that I get to play with robots a lot of the time. And so if you're interested in my diatribes and interested in machine learning and robotics, you can check me out there. I also really love renders of our robot. This is called Mango. I always like to start because I'm fascinated in particular with you guys being game developers, that we've been conditioned to think in terms of screens and taps and clicks. And there's a whole genre of user experience based on the size of the screen and some of this other stuff. And that's awesome, but I'm like a hardware guy. I love Internet of Things, and I love physical interaction. And we're lucky enough now that I can start yelling at a plastic tube to turn on and off my lights. And we're getting comfortable with that. And so one of the more interesting things that's going on now is we have a whole slew of new user experience and engagement avenues for us to explore. So augmented reality is radically different than virtual reality, which is radically different than voice user interaction. And so I'm here to challenge each and every one of you to think not in terms of these individual avenues, but like what you might be able to do if you had a physical manifestation of a game, of a character, of an alarm, or like a get blame system that a robot would come and tell you broke your code. And so this is where like I'm really, really excited about what the future is going to bring in regards to having these devices in our offices, in our homes, and in different settings that we weren't really able to engage with up until recently. I'm actually, Justin, can you bring up Misty here? The one with the flag, please. That'd be great. Well, actually, we need both of them. You can bring both of them up here. So Misty was started with the intention of trying to move forward general purpose robotics. which is kind of an interesting phrase, and I love saying it just because I think it sounds cool. But the same way that I use a computer differently than you guys do, the same way I have different apps on my phone that you guys do, that we're going to hit a situation in the future where we're going to have different skills on our robots. And before we can get there, we have to have some interaction and understanding like what that actually means. Like, what does it mean to engage with a robot in this scenario when it's trying to wake me up? Or what does it mean when I walk in the door and I have a robot that's playing theme music? Like, there's all these different things that we can explore. So that's what I'm really interested in. So what we've done to further that objective is to try to bring in as many different sensors as possible into a platform that enables people with JavaScript experience, with C# experience, with REST API experience to be able to meaningfully interact with a robot. And so that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a device that has capacitive touch, that has a microphone array, that has a depth camera, that can do SLAM. Anybody know what SLAM is? You VR folks definitely should, right? AR folks. Say it again. Yes. This is my audience. I love this. I can't tell you the number of times that I've had to explain it in that. But yes, simultaneous localization and mapping. So now you have the potential to have contextual awareness in the physical world, which is super cool. An audio localization. So having a device that can react to you based on where the sound is coming from. What we're looking at here is can you see my cursor? That is the vector relative to the robot that the robot thinks a voice is coming from. So how do you interact with that? How do you control and code around that? And then facial recognition. So we built an engine that runs on the robot and trains locally. So it'll generate a vector map of the faces in your environment and then be able to send you a notification or a callback or event, depending on the language of choice, and then be able to code against it. It's a lot of fun. SLAM that we were just talking about. So this is it's a 2D representation of a 3D map. So you have kind of obstacles where the robot is, and this map doesn't have a good example of it, but when it can recognize that it can go underneath something. So because it is in 3 dimensions, you can say, I can go under that, but I know that there's something above me. And then time of flights. These are one-dimensional depth sensors that allow you to kind of react to the angle of a wall or like not run into things. And obviously movement. We had a fun moment this morning where people were upset about it, but haters gonna hate. But movement is like a really fascinating interaction point. Like the simple movement of turning roll on a neck changes the way that you perceive whatever emotion the robot's expressing. So I'm saying all this because in games, you want to elicit emotions. You want to have like these moments where you're interacting with the environment, the characters, and now, what if you could take all those things that you're doing in games and then bring it into the physical world? Like that changes a lot of the potential that you can actually have characters manifested in your apartment or in your house. The movement part gets me really excited. So that was a lot of words, but my hope is that you're all wanting to see what this actually looks like. So I'm bringing up Justin Wu here to actually show the REST APIs and what we've built into what we call the command center. So how you can interact with it using WebSockets and post requests and GET requests. So Justin's a lot better at presenting this, so I kind of just leveraged him to do this. So Justin Wu, everybody, yay!
Hey guys, can everyone hear? Everyone can hear me? Can everyone hear me? Can everyone see my computer? No. Yes, you can see it. Excellent. Okay, I got 3 words for you: robots, APIs, REST. All right, it's gonna make a lot of sense. What's a robot? This is a robot. The robot can do a lot of things. It can change the color of its LED, right? It can play a sound. It can. You guys can't see it, but it can change the image. I'm going to show it on the screen. In fact, I chose the wrong. I chose a blank screen. There, I can show an image, but you guys just believe me. It shows on the screen itself there, and it can move its head, right? Yeah. Move its arm. Okay. Do you guys see it moving? Right. Everyone sees it moving, right? Okay. A robot, and it can recognize your face, and it can record a video and record audio from you, and it knows the direction of where the audio is recording from you. Plus, it can navigate the room, and it's got a bunch of sensors. It can, as Chris mentioned, it knows when someone touches its head, when someone touches its bumper, and then when someone like moves it around, right, and moves its head around. All right. Robots. So the next time I'm talking about is API. So how do we interact with it? This was our command center. Each of these commands here is an API. So for example, changing its LED to maybe red, right? Instead of blue, I'm going to choose red here, 0 to 255. I'm going to change its LED to red. Does anyone see it change red? Right? It's super simple. What this is the third word is a REST API. Who here is familiar with REST? Everyone familiar with REST? Again, we all use it when we just enter in a URL to a website. So this is a simple REST post request that just sends in a payload of the LED. But why I'm super excited about this is it allows you to quickly iterate and build applications on the robot. And so this is going to sound really, really crazy. A simple application I built was in Postman. Everyone here is familiar with Postman? Right. Postman, you build it in REST. It's super simple. And of course, I'm just going to prove it. If you can build it in REST, you can build it in like almost any language here. And so change your LED. For example, here you do a post request to red, and then in Postman you can actually save it to a collection, and you can play that collection. So for example, I've got a collection here which is misty.love, and I'm gonna. You guys, oh no. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna turn it the other side here, so everyone gets a chance to see this cool thing here. So this is Misty Angry. I'm gonna play it. You guys see that? And then I'm gonna play Misty Love here, over here. I'm gonna move its arms down so that it's more animated. And then I'm gonna play Misty Love. Like that. There you go. And you can see that it's super simple. It's just a couple of REST API calls. And you can do it in Postman. And it's a robot. So robots, APIs, REST. All right. Thank you.
I love being able to sit in the back while Justin does that. It just makes me happy. So I wanted to show that because it emphasizes that if you can take a lot of the stuff that you're already familiar with and you have a new avenue, the creative potential is enormous. One of my favorite one is I built a skill that when I walked in the house, I had the robot trained to my face. I have it trained to my wife's face as well. And so we have a greeter robot that when I walk in, it plays my Spotify playlist. And when my wife comes home first, it's her Spotify playlist. So now we have a little race to see who can get home first, because then they get to control the DJ Roomba, as it were. But I'm going to bring Brad up here. Brad is our senior software engineer. I find it a lot easier for me to talk and point instead of talking, pointing, and showing code. But before I do like the last kind of finale for this presentation here, I wanted to talk about C#. Now, how many of you are C# developers? What 25%? Help me out. 30%, Ben? What's JavaScript? Primary language JavaScript? What's the other? What am I missing? C++? Low level? So you guys are like hardcore. That's too low for me. So we have a .NET SDK that, if you really want to do C++ that runs on a .NET runtime, you can do that. But I wanted to show like what it actually looks like to program a robot. So what Brad's got up here is our C#. It's our demo skill solution. So this just pulls in everything that you might be used to with a .NET skill. In this case, it's our demo skill. So Brad, if you can go down. So what's really kind of powerful about this is you can pull in different libraries onto the robot and then run them as tasks. So when you build a template file here, you have all of the standard on start, on cancel, and that's actually the on cancel one that I interrupted our esteemed colleague here. But what Brad's showing here is how to create a new template or a new skill, and we have a skill extension that allows all the scaffolding, so you can very quickly iterate and build out, any sort of interaction. It also enables to run multiple things at the same time. So if you wanted to do something that is the movement skill to where you can really choreograph activities, and then have the secondary layer be more of the interaction. So how do I react to individuals? Then you can block out your code the same way that you would like a behavior tree in games, right? So this is, Brad, anything you want to call out here while I got you up here?
I'm not a presenter, so I apologize. What we have right here is our Misty skill template. And if you pull this down from our website,
SDK.MistyRobotics.com for anybody that wants to check it out.
Exactly. It will create a template for you, give you your unique identifier, because every skill has a unique identifier, set up your events for on start, on pause, on resume, just a variety of those things. It also, pulls in your libraries. It has NuGet packages that we are using right now. We have the Misty Robotics Common and SDK are the ones that you currently need for the to work with a robot. The tools is one that we're adding to and trying to add some helper methods for you, such as a data store and HTTP calls. All stuff that you can write yourself because it's just C#. But to help you get moving faster, we do that for you.
So you want to go to the on start and some of the other stuff?
Yeah. Let me. Do you want me to go to the demo?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I just started.
Right on. So what we're showing here is,
So we have our demonstration skill here. In essence, what Brad's going to do is show the code that's running, but you have these entry points in the subscription to events. So in this case, when I tap Misty's head, she doesn't really like that because it's weird when somebody touches your head. Same way when you react to the different bump sensors. So every single one of these are individual events. And so why I wanted to show this is because we do the same thing in games. Like what are the events in a games that we want to react to? How do we have these behaviors that we want to interact with? And so there is an enormous parallel between the way that we architect video games and the way that we program robots. So that was like my big point. That's a pretty good point, I think. But any questions while I have the actual code up and running? Anything you guys want to see? Anything curious? Okay, I got one other thing, and then we'll move on here.
We have a question back here.
Oh, cool. Go for it. I like taking questions during the code because it's one of those things where it's like, how often do you get to see what this actually looks like, the nuts and bolts of a physical thing?
I mean, so how often do like so far like what aspects of the characterizations you see in the game, like the movements or behavioral interactions, manifest itself into the robot chassis?
So we don't stipulate any sort of behavior. Like every part of the behavior of the robot is going to be programmed.
Okay.
So we don't have it's called PAD, like some of the psychological, like reactive stuff. We've talked about that, but we don't have anything like that. But to program behavior, it's interacting with the inputs and outputs that you can do. Does that kind of answer your question?
Okay. Yeah. Sort of.
Okay.
Could we add custom emotional noises to Misty?
Yeah, 100%. So any of the voices that we have a small audio pack that we load with the robot as a place to get started. Same with iSets. So the eyes are fully programmable. All the audio is fully programmable. I'll show you here in a moment what that actually looks like. But yeah, so the intention is that you can characterize it however you'd like. Cool. One other behind you there. I think I got 15 more minutes. Cool.
So
since it's fully programmable, does your website support people sharing remixes on there with the code?
Yep.
And
So
does that have like a rating system on it too, or?
So
how do
we
you
haven't
expect
built
people
out
to
a
distribute it?
store yet. We're a robot company. Our intention is to sell robots. So we make no claim on any skills or anything that you develop. If you want to go and redistribute robots with your own kind of custom stuff, I highly encourage that. But you own all the intellectual property, you own all of that. And the distribution right now is a little light. But there's a number of potential options for doing that type of thing. But come talk to us if you're curious about like any more details with that. Cool. All right. Big hit.
I think we had one more, and
One
I'm
more.
just going to
Okay.
pass the mic.
Do you guys have any kind of developer programs or incentives for developers to make apps or like add-ons to this?
We'll give you a discount on robots.
All right, sounds good.
We have a missions program where the idea is that we challenge people to solve different problems. We've got a one coming up that's going to be in the healthcare space. That how can you use Misty to, I was talking to somebody earlier about how can you use Misty in a physical therapy setting to help knee replacement patients, and some of that stuff. What's a yoga bot look like? So trying to challenge people to be creative with the physicality of this thing. So that's kind of part of our developer program, and then we'll give you discounts on robots. Cool.
Got one more.
Yeah, one more, and then I got to move on here. Yeah, you're good. Hey, big round of applause for Brad. Yay, thank you.
So yeah, I guess the question was just like, have you considered or have you already pitched to like alt control crowds or?
I haven't.
So yeah, alt control is like a catch-all term for like alternative controllers, popular with like a section of GDC. And then another idea was just like also people have like installation art games, and I thought like if there was like a escape room, but you like to progress, you have to get the robot through it. That's like the immediate idea I have.
I love that.
Yeah.
If let's chat. That would be amazing. We did a demonstration when we were in Seattle. The challenge was how do you build a bartender from a robot? And so we have a 3D printed cup holder, and you would use actually one of the other arms as a dial to select which seat that it would go to. Like the little bit on what you're talking about, but like yeah, it's fun. It's just neat to be able to interact with that stuff. Cool. So I'm gonna move on here. I wanted to show kind of the more kind of fun and aspects of Misty. So hold on one second whilst I plug in. So last night we had Waffle.js, and this is kind of the big finale, at least for Misty. But one of the interesting things is on. Oh wait a minute, hold on. I had one other thing to talk about. Who's the best NPC of all time? Come on, you guys are game developers. What is it? Floyd? Close. But any other guesses? Rob? There you go. So, but I love non-playable characters because, like I talked about, they are the perfect analog for what a robot is. I think the best NPC of all time is Wheatley from Portal 2. Yeah. But like I just love the idea, and I would put this personal challenge out to anybody and everybody here, is like how would you have a Wheatley that like was in your office or in your home, like maybe heckling you or doing some of the other stuff, tied to your Twitter account that would be like, oh goodness, you have another detractor, or whatever the case might be. But I wanted to challenge this part of it, just to kind of get some visual thinking on behavior trees and block programming and some of this other stuff, that the intersection between, we use C#, so obviously Unity makes a lot of sense for us as an engine to interface with. So I wanted to show this little GIF for anybody use, oh God, I'm totally blanking on the name of this tool, but it's like a visual behavior tree programming system, to where you can have like, in-game you can trigger events and then have, these different block programming aspects. What is it? Something like that. I'm blanking. But I want somebody to build this. So we had a developer who basically built a very generic game object in Unity, and then used the REST APIs to be able to go to, this is our older prototype, but as the game object rotated, you would have the physical manifestation on the robot. So if anybody wants to build this and wants access to the robot, now is your chance, and I really want to see this, because I'm not a game developer, I'm a JavaScript developer. But you can take a look for all this stuff for yourself. GitHub.com/Misty Community, community.mistyrobotics.com. You can find all these links there. But in closing, I wanted to have Misty sing a little song for us. Let me make sure that this is started here. So I'm just going to go back. We have this tool called Skill Runner. Okay, so it is. I'm going to stop it again and then restart it. Thanks, Misty. So in this particular skill, the LED will turn green, which lets me know that she's ready to go. It looks like, one sec. Live demos, am I right? There we go. Okay. All right, Misty. Do we have the mic on? You turn the switch. Misty's a much better performer than I am. All right, go for it.
Let's have a blast and remember this moment for the rest of our lives.
All right, that's enough of that, but you get the idea. So that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to come up here. Jordan, you want to do anything on closing ceremonies here, or open questions one more time, or anything?
I don't know. I think we're good, right?
Yeah. Chloe, do you want to do a performance, or? Okay. I'll leave it to the master of ceremonies. We're here for a while, so if you have anything.
Yeah. Does anyone have just any last questions or no? Yeah. Okay. We got one.
Hi. Thank you for your presentation and the dance show. I was wondering if Misty had any sort of integration with cloud services to support more complex operations.
Well, so we don't have any native integrations, but you can use external services like AWS or Lambda, Microsoft Cognitive Services, IBM Watch. It doesn't matter. It's an internet-connected robot. So for those of you that were over here, we actually use the camera to take a picture of the environment and then send it up to Cognitive Services to use scene description to announce what the robot's able to see. Like I said, we've also touched on. Oh man, I'm totally blanking here. Yes, the short answer is yes. We have the ability to integrate with cloud services of all types.
Great, thanks.
Twilio, yes, that's what it was.
and we got another one back here.
Do you have any privacy safeguards on Misty to keep people from, say, hacking her and spying in your home, with the fears of webcams?
Yeah, so that is a good question. Because it is intended to be a developer platform right now, that we're really not targeting consumer applications. So our primary use case right now is around research and development, innovation, and kind of proof of concept. And then there is a number of things that you can do once you kind of have those things fleshed out to lock down the platform. But right now it's about as secure as a webcam on your network.
I'm curious about how you actually did the back-end infrastructure for your APIs. So how did you actually set up, what's the infrastructure behind the API, behind the APIs on the robot?
So Brad might be a better person to answer this question. We are running Windows IoT Core under the hood, which handles all of our update systems. We have two Qualcomm Snapdragon processors, one entirely devoted to vision, and the other one to kind of the brain. And so on one of them, we have a web server that we surface all of the APIs to, and then from that, yeah, Brett. C# app services.
And is it all like through like OAuth, like when you're like making API requests, or is there like a bearer token like for like security and stuff like
Right
that?
now,
or?
no.
Right now,
No.
no.
And that's what I was implying. It's like our intention is when you get to the point where you start wanting to be more and more security minded, that you're going to write the skills to be running on the robot, and then the authentication would be out to external servers.
Got it.
So as far as like getting request data off of the robot, we haven't enabled an auth token yet. But yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I think that wraps it up. Could we get a round of applause? Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah. So that wraps up the game development meetup. We're going to be here for another hour or so. So if you want to get your hands dirty, definitely come and try out this game demo that he has set up here, and you can definitely play around with the robots. Thank you so much to the Microsoft Reactor for hosting us. Thank you, Chloe and Microsoft, for the food sponsorship. Thank you, Anthony, for doing the video and the AV. You always do an amazing job. I'd really like to thank everyone for coming out, and I hope to see you next month. We have cupcakes also to basically celebrate the end of the year. So thank you guys for making 2019 such an awesome year for the game development world. So I hope to see everyone in 2020 for more meetups. Thank you so much.